She was often called the woman among the Surrealists, but Leonor Fini was never anyone's token. She painted women as powerful, untamed, and in control, turning the male gaze on its head. Her world was filled with sphinxes, priestesses, and feline queens. She blurred the lines between fantasy and reality, masculinity and femininity, in both her art and her life. She refused to join any movement, declaring, "I am a painter. When people ask me how I do it, I reply, I am." This is the story of Leonor Fini, the Surrealist queen who answered to no one. Hey guys, it's Laura here again. Welcome back to the channel and let's get into it. Leonor Fini was born on August 30th, 1907 in Buenos Aires, Argentina, to an Italian mother and an Argentinian father, but her life didn't stay in South America for long. When she was just a toddler, her parents split, and her mother whisked her away to Trieste, Italy. This wasn't just a relocation, it was a literal escape. Her father had tried to kidnap her, and her mother dressed her as a boy for years to stop him from finding her. That early experience, the sense of disguise, transformation, and theatricality would shape her art forever. Rebellious and independent from the start, she was expelled from multiple schools and taught herself art in her own unconventional way, sketching cadavers at the local morgue to learn anatomy, studying the old masters through books and museums, and reading Freud before she was 16. A bout of rheumatic conjunctivitis left her temporarily blind as a teenager, but she credited that period of darkness with sharpening her imagination. By 17, she was already exhibiting portraits in Trieste. 2 years later, she moved to Milan, and in 1931 to Paris, where she stepped directly into the beating heart of the avant-garde. In Paris, her flamboyant personality, theatrical fashion, and fearless spirit made her impossible to ignore. She befriended Paul Eluard, Salvador Dali, Man Ray, and Max Ernst, the latter becoming her lover for a time. There was only one surrealist she refused to deal with, André Breton, whom she found intolerably misogynistic. Unlike many women in that circle, she refused to be anyone's muse. Fini didn't want to play the role Surrealism often gave to women, passive, dreamlike, objectified. Though she exhibited with the Surrealists, Fini refused to join the movement officially, maintaining her independence. Her work caught the eye of American art dealer Julian Levy, who invited her to New York in 1936. There she exhibited alongside Ernst and Joseph Cornell, and her paintings were included in MoMA's landmark Fantastic Art, Dada and Surrealism exhibition. Leonor Fini's career spanned 6 decades, and she did it all: painting, graphic design, book illustration, product design, stage and costume design for theatre, ballet, opera and film. She even created the iconic torso-shaped bottle for Elsa Schiaparelli's shocking perfume, a dressmaker's mannequin modelled after Mae West, wrapped with a measuring tape at the neck and displayed under a glass dome. The design was as theatrical and provocative as the perfume's name, perfectly capturing Schiaparelli's shocking pink spirit. Her art and her life were equally flamboyant, and both made her a legend in the avant-garde. In 1939, she curated an exhibition of Surrealist furniture for her childhood friend Leo Castelli's first gallery. Over the years, her introductions were written by Giorgio De Chirico, Ernst and Jean Cocteau. Fini's work often explored the power dynamic between the sexes, but in her world, women hold the power. Seductive, yes, but never submissive. Her figures were priestesses, witches, sphinxes, feline queens, sometimes human-animal hybrids, sometimes masked, sometimes caught mid-transformation. They weren't posed for the male gaze, they looked right back at you. Fini was equally fascinated by androgyny, often painting men as delicate, vulnerable, almost feminine, reversing the gender roles found in classical art. For her, gender was fluid, and her paintings reflected that truth decades before it entered mainstream conversation. Fini's world was pure theatre. She didn't just paint, she designed costumes for theatre and opera and created entire stage sets. Her designs graced the Paris Opera, the Metropolitan Opera, and even Federico Fellini's 8½. In the 1970s, she created Brigitte Bardot's unforgettable costume for the Rothschilds' ball. Even her own life was a kind of performance. She lived in opulent apartments draped in silks and filled with perfumes, masks, and as many as 17 cats at a time. Her circle of friends was just as dazzling, including Jean Cocteau, Anna Magnani, and Fellini himself. And her love life? Completely unconventional. She lived openly in a ménage à trois with 2 men for years, and once she preferred the idea of having several loves, like cats. Fini lived outside of societal norms, and her art celebrated that freedom. One of her most famous works, Auto-Portrait or Scorpion, 1938, shows Fini, her face pale and serious, with a scorpion. It's both a warning and an invitation, beautiful but dangerous. The scorpion, a symbol of danger, mystery, and transformation, mirrors Fini's own persona, enigmatic, fiercely independent, and unafraid to challenge conventions. This self-portrait captures her blend of allure and menace, inviting viewers to look closer, but beware. Notably, Auto-Portrait or Scorpion was the only self-portrait Fini chose never to sell during her lifetime. A decision that proved prescient, as it set a new auction record for the artist when it sold for $2.3 million at Sotheby's, New York in 2021, remaining her most expensive work ever sold and the only one to reach 7 figures. By the early 1940s, Fini was deeply engaged with themes of mythology and female power, recurring motifs in her work. In The Shepherdess of the Sphinxes, 1941, she presents a shepherdess surrounded by semi-nude sphinxes, reversing the usual power dynamic between human and mythical beast. Here the woman is the tamer, the leader, the one in control. Her stillness a quiet assertion of authority. The sphinxes, often symbols of mystery and danger, seem to serve her rather than threaten her, turning the myth on its head and echoing Fini's recurring theme of female dominance and self-possession. Fini's fascination with sphinxes and the blurred boundaries between human and animal continued well into the late 1940s. In Little Hermit Sphinx, 1948, she offers a smaller, more intimate portrayal of this mythical creature, blending human mystery with animal grace. The figure's contemplative pose and enigmatic expression draw the viewer into a world where the lines between human, beast, and spirit dissolve. Like much of Fini's work, this painting captures the tension between vulnerability and power, mystery and control, reflecting her ongoing exploration of female strength wrapped in myth and fantasy. Her palette was lush and dreamlike, rich reds, smoky greys, icy blues. Her compositions felt like they were unfolding in an eternal twilight where anything could happen. During World War II, she fled Paris and spent time in Monte Carlo, continuing to paint fantastical scenes, even in the shadow of global chaos. Her art was a form of resistance, a refusal to be dragged into the dull brutality of reality. In the decades that followed, she became something of a legend, not just for her art, but for the life she built around it. She traveled constantly, exhibited internationally, and guarded her independence fiercely. Critics sometimes dismissed her work as decorative or fantastical, but in reality, she was challenging power structures through imagery, especially the way women were depicted. Leonor Fini died in Paris in 1996 at the age of 88. Surrounded, as always, by her beloved cats. She left behind a body of work that defies easy categorization. Part surrealism, part symbolism, part theatre, part dream. One of the most photographed women of the 20th century, she was a muse and a friend to countless artists and writers, but more importantly, a trailblazer whose art challenged conventions and celebrated female power. Her art reminds us that the imagination is a sovereign territory, and in that territory you can be whoever, whatever you want. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Leonor Fini's life and work, don't forget to like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments which Fini painting you would like most to step inside. See you on the next one. Bye!